Reading 26 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Maurice Nicoll. Volume 2. Birdlip, July 11th, 1944. Further notes on meaning. Reflect for a moment on the world of meaning in which you live, in which all people really live. What is meaning for you? You want food, say, or you wish to get some appointment, or to see someone. All this is meaning. Different meanings in the world of meaning. Now, is this meaning tangible or visible? I do not see how you can say that meaning can be touched with the organs of sense, or seen by the eye, or heard, or smelt, or tasted. For example, money has meaning to everyone, but is the meaning of money touchable or seeable? It is surely not an object of any of the senses. As an object of the senses, it can take any form: paper, silver, gold, scrip, or just credit. But the meaning remains the same, quite apart from the visible form. It is necessary to point this out, as people often take an object and its meaning as identical. Meaning is not the same as the seen object, or the object of the senses. As this particular external world of things which we are wired into by our present sense machines, this particular variety show with its ever-repeating program. Now you notice how meaning waxes and wanes. The object does not alter, but its meaning alters. You get sick of a thing, and then later think it is not so bad and return to it. All this happens in the world of meaning, not in the external world of the senses. You see that when it is said that we live really in a psychical world, in an invisible world, and we are really invisible to one another, it is not an exaggeration. If you observe in yourself the changes of meaning, you may come to the conclusion that the visible object and its meaning are different things. Now, once a person can separate in himself or herself what might be termed meaning from object, that person begins to understand this work. This work is not about external objects, but about meaning and what gives you meaning in regard to them. We all live in a world of meaning, and we are all deeply ill in this world of meaning. How are we all deeply ill in this private world of meaning? Do you catch what is meant here? How much illness is due to wrong connections of meaning and has nothing to do with the external object, the person? Well, I could write about this for a long time. But unless you begin to understand that every external object is a question of the meaning you project into it, unless you see what is meant, I think it is a vain task. The object and the meaning of it to you are two different things. This is the first separation, I would say. The revival of former meaning, or the deliberate bringing into a present event other meaning apart from the meaning the event has for you mechanically, constitutes one of the fundamental ideas of the work on its practical side. This is effort about meaning, not about the external event. Efforts are not external things like taking long walks or giving up smoking, etc. Work efforts are inner efforts in regard to oneself and the way one takes life and its ever-turning events. Work effort is all about our relation to life events. A person is an event. If you are a function of life events, you are mechanical. Yes, but what does this mean? If things go well, you feel grand. If things go badly, you feel gloomy, depressed, or negative, and so on. Then you transform nothing. When it is said in this work that it is psychotransformism, it means what it says. What is psychotransformism? It means that one has to transform psychologically one's ways of taking things. Yet people think the work should transform the external situation, the things. No, how is that possible? You cannot change life, but the meaning of the external situation can be for you transformed. One can be, as I say, very ill in the world of meaning. Yes, this is very true, only we do not notice it. The meanings that we live by may be very bad, very inadequate, very poor and mean. Psychotransformism is changing the meaning of things, of events, of situations for yourself. It is about taking things in a new way, that is, changing their meaning. Here, all the first efforts of work lie. Let us consider for a moment what mental effort means. This work starts from the mind, not from the body. It speaks of changing the mind. You are not at first asked to change your bodily habits, but your ways of looking at everything, such as, say, your ways of taking your own life, of thinking of yourself, your ways of taking other people, and your thoughts about them. It starts, as does the esoteric teaching, in the Gospels, from Machovina, changing your mind, literally going beyond your vous, or mind. This means changing your meanings for things and people. It means much more, but it means changing your meanings for life. Everybody lives in a narrow set of meanings that contract gradually. The work is new meanings. Meaning is a fitful, fleeting thing. A person, for instance, always trying to put across some picture, some imaginary meaning of himself or herself, becomes tiresome. Things have their place and time, and often we do not see this. But today I am talking of how things have their place and time in oneself, without their being uttered in speech or in outer behavior to others. In this connection, we have to realize that it may be possible internally, in oneself, to catch real and new meaning for a time and not later on. Remember that the Enneagram turns. Its different points of meaning and force are turning. What you see today may not be possible tomorrow, or even a second later. But it will return. That is the point. It will come back. All psychological development consists in seeing new meaning, in finer meaning. What develops us is meaning. By efforts, by work, we begin to catch new meaning. If we do not, then there is something wrong in our valuation. I'm speaking of those not yet crystallized out in habitual views and personal esteem. Certainly, meaning is the best way to think of this work at first. The ideas of this work are to conduct, transmit new meaning, like a new radio station, like leaven that transforms what it acts on. This work is self-transformation. However, if one just remains as one is, not trying to change one's way of taking life, but expecting that the work is going to add something onto the person, one is at present a mistake is made. This mistake runs through every wrong form of esoteric teaching. Now let us speak of impulse. We constantly start off from impulse, and I wish to say here in a special sense that we start often from the impulse of new meaning. Meaning always gives force, impulse. So when we have seen new meaning for ourselves, we wish in some excited way either to speak of it or to carry it out into permanent action. Of course it is impossible. In the first place, a trace of new meaning entering a dark and almost dead life is not strong enough to affect anything. And secondly, even if it did, the Enneagram turns, and you may have to wait and remember. Habit is constant repetition of the same thing, but this can be thought of as being due to not noticing what follows on. To do so requires an increasing sensitiveness to the work. The work can start the conscious Enneagram in us. One thing should, as it were, be noticed, and then it leads on to something else, and then eventually, although everything returns again, it is not quite on the same level. This means giving a shock. But to try to keep on at one fixed point, that is, habit, is wrong. G said, "The trouble is, everything becomes mechanical." This refers to the circle of habits and habitual meanings, the mechanical Enneagram, the Enneagram without any conscious shocks. It refers to a person who has no self-consciousness, no power of seeing himself and the other person together.